And nobody is calling out the president, Donald Trump. I will. This is the same Donald Trump that looked at folks during the campaign in 2015 and 2024. And he said, what do you got to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
When you look at the actions of this administration and you're talking about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and you're equating that with black people.
Who do you think benefits the most from DEI programs? Black people? No. White women. Who's the second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs? Black people? No. The second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs is white men. And when I read that, I was completely shocked. Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, disabled people, LGBTQ, and at the very bottom, black people.
I know that we're all in this together, black, white, fat, skinny, whatever it is, because trust me, we are either going to hang together or we're going to hang separately. But guess what, kids? We're going to hang. Because these up in that politics are crazy.
We're now tuned in to the Dark Times channel.
And you're using words like unqualified. Remember, he blamed DEI when a plane crashed in the immediate aftermath of the plane crash in D.C., colliding with the helicopter where lives were lost. The first words that came out of President Trump's mouth was DEI. What evidence do you have, President Trump? He had none. Why is it always attached to black people, the biggest beneficiaries of affirmative action and DEI? Some would argue are white women. How come we don't mention that?
Welcome back to the Dark Times channel. The other day, Stephen A. Smith touched on something that many people may not be aware of, and that's the real truth and understanding about DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Who do you think benefits most from DEI programs? They did a survey about 5 months ago. The one thing that got a majority of votes is black women benefit and black men benefit. Fortunately, the government actually kept statistics because this has been going on for 60 years. It's not like it happened yesterday. And you can look it up, except you can't because they took all that information off the web. And
Right, not anymore.
Yeah, you can't find it anymore. But when there were people who were looking and they did find out, it's a quiz. It's a quiz for everybody out there. Who do you think benefits the most from DEI programs? Black people? No. White women. Who's the second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs? Black people? No. The second biggest beneficiary of DEI programs is white men. And when I read that, I was completely shocked. Hispanics, Asians, Native Americans, disabled people, LGBTQ, and at the very bottom, black people.
And so this information in and of itself wasn't something that was necessarily new to me, but when I heard the breakdown of all the different groups, it was staggering. It was a little bit more eye-opening and it hit a little bit differently. But when you think about it, just from a logical standpoint, so-called black Americans only make up about 14% of the population. And then when you factor in those that are not of working age, are past working age and retirement, you're talking about a small group, a small percentage of the population that is actually even able to take advantage of DEI. But yet, so-called black Americans are the face of DEI.
The white masses will love their racism so much in America, they'll vote or go against their own best interests just to make sure they keep their racism. And you know what? People like to, point fingers. But I want to tell you something. There is one group in this country and one group only that is absolutely responsible for the insanity that we've been enduring. The wealthiest people, the 1%, have fooled us all into working for them for free. And we fall for it century after century. All they had to do was convince the white masses that the people of color are the reason for all of our economic problems and why we can't make ends meet, and we fall for it every time. Back when Lyndon B. Johnson was alive, He summarized this scam that we white people fall for. And he summarized it great. It's kind of antiquated language, but he said it all. If you can convince the lowest white man he's better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him someone to look down on and he'll empty them for you. This kind of makes sense, huh?
And so Stephen A. Smith mentioned having a sit down with Vance and Trump about this very topic, the topic of DEI, and having an open dialogue about it. And I think that would be a good thing. I think it would be good for Americans to actually hear. And I have somewhat mixed emotions. On one hand, I think the removal of DEI in a lot of instances can be a good thing because it's never benefited so-called black people to begin with. And so you're taking away this proverbial boogeyman that a lot of people from different communities have an issue with in regards to not getting a job, not getting a promotion, not getting into college. There's always been this proverbial so-called black boogeyman or boogie woman that's been taking these jobs and taking these positions from people that think that they deserve these positions. And so once you remove that, you remove the veil, there's no excuses. There's no one else to blame but the man in the mirror. And so by that regard, I think it could be a good thing. I think it can be a positive thing. But then on the other hand, when they start removing historical so-called black figures from the history books, from the Department of Defense website, and they start doing things like that, that's another thing. Because now they're doing it under the guise of DEI when all they're really doing is removing black history. And that's never a good thing when you start removing a group of people's history. We all know what that leads to, at least on a historical reference. But like I said, those are my thoughts on it, and I would love to get some feedback, especially on this one. This is a little bit different than the topics that I usually touch on, so definitely please chime in the chat below, and I'm going to try to be as active in there as I can. And as usual, peace and chaos.